Welcome back, PetaPixel viewers. It is Chris Nichols here. We're out here at the Yamnuska Wolfdog Sanctuary. We've always had a great time out here. Beautiful animals to take photographs of, and we've got just the lens for it, the brand new Sigma 500mm f5.6 Sport Edition. Now, when I first got my hands on this, I thought it was a contemporary edition lens just because it is so compact and lightweight, but this is actually their professional sport series lens. This is going to be available both for L-Mount, where you can use teleconverters, that'll be nice, or Sony E-Mount. You don't have teleconverters for that yet, but that's what I'm shooting today on the Sony a7R5. And I think this is going to be a really important lens because Sony and L-Mount, these mounts don't have any prime telephotos that are like this with slower apertures, more compact and lightweight. So this is really going to fill a niche. Now with Nikon Z-Mount, I don't know if Nikon's going to let Sigma make this particular lens for their mount because Nikon already have some excellent compact telephoto prime lenses that are, relatively speaking, not that expensive. But this would be a direct competition to that. But when it comes to Sony E-Mount and L-Mount, there's really nothing like this. So I think it's going to be a big hit. Let's go shoot it. Now you might be thinking, well, a 5.6 prime lens, this isn't going to have a lot of bells and whistles, but actually this is fully featured. I mean, got a nice beautiful hood in here with a rubberized front. I like that. 95mm filter threads. And right here at the top, we got our custom buttons, but we also get an aperture ring in an interesting spot up here on the front of the lens. And I actually like this because this is naturally where I'm going to hold the lens, so the ring is in a perfect place for me to manipulate it. And I do like that I can set that to click stops, or I can have it just a nice, smooth, silent turn for video work. Then I've got a beautiful manual focus ring. It's well dampened. I got my autofocus manual focus selector, focus limiter, image stabilization. This, of course, has a sports mode as well as a stationary mode. And Sigma's saying this will give us 5 stops of image stabilization. I mean, so far I'm finding it very steady. I can also set my custom switch buttons here. When we get to the tripod collar, I do love this. It's like Sigma made this for me. So first off, we get those clicks at the 90-degree marks. I really do like that personally. Also, the tripod foot, it does have the cuts for Arca Swiss style tripod mounts. The only thing I will say about this tripod collar, it is quite tight to the lens. Now, I've got delicate tendril-like fingers, so I can fit them in there, but even then it's a little bit uncomfortable. It's squishing my fingers here. If anybody had anything thicker than this, you're not gonna be able to hold it, and I do like to really hold it by the tripod collar when I'm walking around. Now, this is a sports edition lens. Of course, it's rugged, it's weather sealed, and normally the sports edition lenses are heavy, but that's where we have a departure here. This is really quite lightweight, 1,385 grams on the Sony E-Mount version. I mean, that's just under a planet and a half. I can easily hand hold it all day long. And so that's the real appeal here. I'm getting tons of reach, but without having a lot of bulk. So we've got Mako back here. She's a lovely dog having a little nap there, but it was a good test for the autofocus going from her sign to her there in the background. The Sigma 500mm f5.6 is doing a very good job. It uses Sigma's HLA, their high-speed linear actuator, basically a fast linear motor, and I'm finding the performance is fantastic for sports, action, no problems at all. All right, it's Loca time now. You know what that means. Longitudinal chromatic aberration. That's where you get color cast in the foreground and background out of focus areas, and you don't want it because it's very hard to get rid of in post. So looking here, we got sunlight coming off this bright fence, and you'll notice we're really not seeing any major color cast at all. Nothing that I'd be worried about. Background and foreground are both free of any sort of harsh color cast. So this is a really nice performance. So we're happy to see a nice, beautiful, bright, sunny day because that means we can get some flare tests, and actually we're getting really good results. Sigma coatings always do a good job controlling flare, but this lens seems to be very well corrected. I'm not really noticing any sort of color cast, definitely no ghosting, even when stopped down to f16, and we're seeing, again, no real loss of contrast, still a lot of good detail there, so really, really nice lens if you're shooting towards the sun. Of course, we do have this nice, generous hood to protect us as well, but I'm just not worried in pretty much any situation where it's bright.
Did you get a shot of those ravens?
Yeah, I did actually. I got a good shot.
No, you can't get a good shot of a raven. Ravens suck.
No, they're incredibly smart birds, and they're beautifully shaped and large out here in the mountains.
Stupid, dumb, ugly birds.
No, they're boring colored. I mean, they're just one tone, but they're majestic creatures.
They suck, and I bet your pictures suck.
Oh, you're the worst. So we got some friendly goats here coming to say hi, which is always nice. Of course, with a telephoto prime like this, we're always going to have a fairly lengthy minimum focusing distance. This is 3.2 meters. That's not bad. I mean, I can shoot those goats there in the middle of the pen, no problem. But there's definitely times where the wolf dogs, the goats come right up to the fence like this guy here, and you're like, you know, back up a little bit, back up a little bit. You got to get further away. Getting about a 1 to 6 life-size reproduction. So, I mean, it's not a macro lens, but you can certainly isolate certain subjects if you want to. So let's talk about bokeh next. On a lens like this, of course, you're going to get quite shallow depth of field, even with a 5.6 aperture. I did find a sample here, just so you can see specular highlights, wide open at 5.6. We're getting some sort of cat's eye effect, but it goes away pretty quick as you start to stop down the lens. No onion rings, a little bit of a soap bubble effect, but overall pretty clean bokeh. You can see a lot of our wildlife shots. We are getting nice transitions from in focus to out of focus areas. I think it looks natural, even with a lot of the busy backgrounds we have here with branches and leaves and grass. I think it does a pretty good job of rendering wildlife nice and stark against a smooth, soft background. All right, let's talk about sharpness, and this is going to be a very easy talk for me and for you as well. So take a look at our test charts here. 500 millimeters, first shooting 5.6 in the center, incredibly sharp. I mean, tons of detail. When I stop down to f11, which I know is completely unnecessary, we really have no change in detail here. When we then look at the corners wide open at 5.6, again, beautifully sharp. Stopping down to f11 gives very minor improvements, if any. Like, this lens is sharp all the way across its aperture range. I've also noticed that I'm focused in the center, the corners are in the same plane, nice and sharp. If I focus in the corners, the center's in the same plane, nice and sharp. So this is a flat, exceptionally sharp lens, even on a 60 megapixel sensor like this. All right, we had a great time here at the Yamnuska Wolfdog Sanctuary. Big thanks to them for letting us shoot here. And it was a great test for a lens like this, not only because we're getting excellent range for it, but also this is a lightweight lens. I can just walk around, carry it easily without having to worry about a tripod. So how do I feel about this lens? Well, first off, as I mentioned before, there's really nothing like this as far as a fixed prime goes when you're looking at Sony or L-Mount. So it's definitely going to fill a niche. But at the same time, keep in mind that there are a lot of zooms available, which really aren't that much slower. They're not really that much bigger, but they definitely can be heavier. But you've got great lenses like the Sigma 150 to 600. You got the Sony 200 to 600. Those are absolutely viable alternatives. This lens is basically right on par with anything you get from Canon, Nikon, Sony. I mean, it's incredibly sharp, resists flare, focuses fast, it's rugged, beautiful, wide open, nice bokeh. I mean, there's no real weakness here on this lens. As pricey as it is, I don't think that's a problem because it's absolutely delivering the goods. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the results that we got here, and maybe this brought interest to you on this particular lens. Leave your comments below, let us know what you think. We always appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, why not? And listen to our podcast you can find on the same YouTube channel or on all your favorite podcasting apps. All you have to look for is the PetaPixel podcast. Thanks for joining us, and as always, we'll see you soon with more episodes on PetaPixel.